The warning sirens blared across the bridge of the Keltorian warship as Lieutenant Jake Morrison gripped the sides of his crash seat. The ship shuddered violently as another plasma bolt tore through its shields. Around him, alien crew members scrambled to their stations, their blue-scaled skin gleaming under the emergency lights. Jake's worn combat armor looked ancient compared to the sleek energy shields flickering around the Keltorian warriors. He'd been assigned to this vessel as part of the Galactic Council's integration program, meant to prove humanity deserved a seat at the table. So far, he'd been treated like a curiosity at best. Princess Zarakith strode onto the bridge, her royal armor shimmering with advanced technology that cost more than Earth's entire defense budget. She glanced at Jake and her lips curled into a sneer. Her golden eyes swept over his scarred chest plate and scratched helmet with obvious contempt. The armor was standard issue from the Colonial Marines, designed for functionality rather than flash. Compared to her glowing force fields and energy dispersers, he looked like he'd walked out of a museum. The ship rocked again. Captain Valron's voice cut through the chaos, announcing that the Krythian raiders had disabled their main engines. They had minutes before the enemy boarding pods would attach. Zarakith's entourage of elite guards activated their weapons, energy blades humming to life. The princess walked past Jake without acknowledgement, already barking orders to her soldiers. She paused only to glance back at him with a mocking smile. Perhaps you should hide in the cargo bay, human. That primitive metal shell won't stop a Krythian blade. Wouldn't want you to rust before you're actually useful. Her guards laughed, the sound echoing across the bridge. Jake said nothing. He'd heard worse during basic training. Instead, he checked his rifle, a simple kinetic weapon that fired solid projectiles. The Keltorians found human weapons hilariously outdated. They preferred elegant energy weapons that could slice through most known materials. Jake had tried explaining that bullets were reliable, required no power cells, and could penetrate most shields through sheer kinetic force. Nobody had listened. The first impact shook the entire ship. Metal screamed as the Krythian boarding pod punched through the hull. Atmosphere vented with a shriek before emergency seals slammed shut. Through the corridor leading to the breach point, Jake could see shadows moving. The Krythians were massive, 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and exoskeletons harder than starship plating. Their reputation preceded them as the galaxy's most feared raiders, pirates who took no prisoners and left nothing but wreckage. Zarakith positioned her guards at the corridor entrance, their energy shields creating a barrier of light. She stood behind them, her own weapon charging with a high-pitched whine. The princess caught Jake watching and rolled her eyes. "Stay back and observe, primitive. Watch how real warriors fight." The Krythians came fast. They burst from the corridor in a wave of armored fury, weapons firing bolts of superheated plasma. The Keltorian shields held for approximately 3 seconds before the sustained assault overwhelmed them. Energy fields flickered and died. The guards fell back, their elegant weapons suddenly insufficient against the raiders' brutal assault. Zarakith's confident expression cracked as reality hit. Her people were losing. Jake stepped forward. The reactor core of the Keltorian warship hummed 3 decks below, its energy signature pulsing through the ship's framework. Jake felt it in his bones, a frequency that matched the experimental augmentations humanity had developed in secret. Earth scientists had discovered something about human biology that made them unique in the galaxy. Humans could interface directly with certain types of energy fields, absorbing and redirecting them in ways no other species could manage. The Galactic Council didn't know because Earth's diplomats had wisely kept it classified. Better to be underestimated. The first Krythian charged Jake directly, all 4 arms swinging blade clubs that could shatter starship hulls. The princess screamed a warning, probably expecting to witness his immediate death. Instead, Jake's body lit up from within. The scarred armor plating began to glow with blue-white light as he channeled the ship's reactor energy through his augmented nervous system. The primitive metal shell that Zarakith had mocked transformed into something else entirely, energy crackling across every surface like captured lightning. Jake moved faster than the Crythian could track. He sidestepped the incoming strikes and drove his fist into the raider's center mass. The impact released a shockwave of pure energy that sent the massive alien flying backward into his comrades. The Crythian's exoskeleton cracked like glass, smoke rising from the impact point. Jake's armor blazed brighter, drawing more power from the ship's core. Around him, the air itself seemed to ripple with heat and force. Princess Zarakith stood frozen, her mouth open in shock. Her elite guards had retreated to defensive positions, overwhelmed by the Crythian assault. But now the raiders hesitated, their attention fixed on the glowing human who stood between them and their prize. Jake could feel the power coursing through him, more than he'd ever channeled before. The reactor was military grade, designed to power a vessel carrying 3,000 souls. He was drinking from a river of energy that could level a city. The Crythians recovered quickly. 3 of them rushed Jake simultaneously from different angles, their tactics coordinated and professional. They'd fought countless battles against various species and knew how to adapt, but they'd never fought a human channeling enough power to run a small star. Jake's rifle came up, each shot releasing a kinetic round wrapped in condensed energy. The bullets punched through Crythian armor like tissue paper, detonating on impact with enough force to shatter bone and disable the massive raiders instantly. One Crythian got close enough to swing at Jake's head. The human caught the blade arm mid-strike, his glowing hand gripping the exoskeleton material. Energy surged from his palm directly into the raider's body, overloading the alien's nervous system in a flash of brilliant light. The Crythian collapsed, smoke rising from every joint in his armor. Jake released the body and turned to face the next wave, his expression calm behind his helmet's visor. Zarakith finally found her voice. She shouted orders to her guards, telling them to provide support fire, to flank the enemy, to do anything useful. But her voice carried a new tone, uncertainty mixed with something that might have been awe. The princess had spent her entire life training with the finest weapons technology could provide, protected by shields that cost fortunes. Yet this human in his primitive armor was dismantling elite Crythian raiders like they were training dummies. More raiders poured through the breach. The Crythians had committed serious numbers to this boarding action, expecting easy prey. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a corridor with a human channeling enough energy to power their entire fleet. Jake advanced into their ranks, each movement precise and devastating. His fists struck like artillery shells. His rifle never missed, each shot calculated to disable and destroy. The Crythians began to retreat, their legendary fearlessness cracking against something they couldn't understand. Jake pursued them into the breach corridor, his armor now burning so bright that looking at him directly hurt. He could feel the limits of his augmentation approaching, the amount of energy threatening to overwhelm even his enhanced biology. But he pushed harder, drawing more power, becoming something between human and force of nature. The last group of Crythians broke completely, scrambling back toward their boarding pod in panic. Jake raised his rifle and fired a final shot that severed the pod's coupling mechanism. The escape craft tumbled away from the ship, leaving the surviving raiders stranded. The battle ended as suddenly as it began. Jake stood alone in the corridor, surrounded by fallen Crythians and scorch marks that mapped the intensity of the fight. His armor's glow faded gradually as he released his connection to the ship's reactor. The blue-white light dimmed to nothing, revealing the same scarred metal plates that Zarakith had mocked minutes earlier. Jake's hands shook slightly from the adrenaline and energy discharge, but he remained standing, his breathing steady. Behind him, Princess Zarakith approached slowly. Her elite guards parted to let her pass, all of them staring at Jake with expressions ranging from shock to respect. The princess stopped a few feet away, her earlier arrogance completely absent. She looked at Jake's armor with new eyes, seeing past the superficial wear to what it truly represented. Not primitive weakness, but deliberate simplicity designed to house something far more powerful. "You're not a regular soldier," Zarakith said quietly. Her voice had lost its mocking edge, replaced by curiosity and calculation. "No human should be able to do what you just did. Those augmentations, the energy channeling. Earth didn't share this capability with the Galactic Council. Why?" Jake removed his helmet, meeting her golden eyes directly. His face was younger than she expected, barely into his 30s, with the kind of steady confidence that came from knowing exactly what he was capable of. "Because we learned a long time ago that showing all your cards gets you conquered. The galaxy thinks humans are primitive and weak. Let them think that. Better to be underestimated than targeted." The princess considered this, her tactical mind processing the implications. If one human soldier could channel this much power, what could Earth's entire military accomplish? How many other capabilities had humanity developed in secret while playing the role of grateful newcomers to galactic civilization? The integration program suddenly looked less like charity and more like reconnaissance. Zarakith felt her respect for human strategy growing despite herself. Captain Velron's voice crackled over the intercom, reporting that the Crithian main ship was retreating. Without their boarding party and facing an unexpected defense, the raiders had apparently decided this target was more trouble than it was worth. The Keltorian warship had survived, its crew intact, all because of one human who'd been treated as a joke. Zarakith extended her hand toward Jake, a gesture of respect in Keltorian culture. "I apologize for my earlier words, Lieutenant Morrison. Your armor isn't primitive. It's practical. Form following function. I should have recognized that." Jake shook her hand, noting the firm grip. "No offense taken, Your Highness. Most species judge by appearances. It's natural. We're just used to it by now." "And the energy channeling? Is this common among human soldiers?" Jake smiled slightly. "I'm not at liberty to discuss Earth's military capabilities, but I will say that humanity has learned to work with what we have. We might not have your advanced shields or energy weapons, but we've discovered that sometimes the old ways have advantages people forget about." He paused, then added, "Plus, we're really good at adapting to whatever situation we find ourselves in. It's kind of our thing." The princess watched him carefully, reassessing everything she thought she knew about humans. This integration program had been her idea, a way to gradually introduce humanity to galactic politics while keeping them in a subordinate position. Now she wondered if Earth's diplomats had been running their own program all along, learning Keltorian technology and tactics, while revealing nothing about their true capabilities. Jake picked up his rifle from where it had fallen during the fight. The weapon looked even more basic next to the Keltorian energy weapons scattered across the deck. But appearances, as he'd just proven, meant nothing compared to effectiveness. He checked the rifle's mechanism with practiced ease, then slung it across his back. The simple kinetic weapon had proven more reliable in the fight than the aliens' sophisticated energy blades. As medical teams arrived to treat the wounded Keltorian guards, Zarakith made a decision. She activated her personal communicator and requested a direct line to her father, the Keltorian Emperor. When he appeared on the holographic display, she spoke with uncharacteristic humility. "Father, we need to revise our assessment of the humans. Significantly, I just watched one of their soldiers defend this entire ship against Crithian raiders. Alone. using capabilities we didn't know they possessed. She glanced at Jake, who stood nearby examining the damage to his armor. I think Earth has been playing a longer game than we realized. The integration program needs to change from evaluation to genuine partnership. These people are not primitive. They're strategic. The Emperor's holographic image studied Jake with interest. Is this human-aware you're reporting to me? I am, Your Majesty, Jake interjected, stepping into the hologram's field of view. And I'd like to add that Earth has no hostile intentions toward the Keltorian Empire or any council member. We just prefer to keep some cards close until we're certain of our allies. It's nothing personal, just practical survival strategy from a species that's only recently joined the galactic community. The Emperor's expression shifted to what might have been amusement. Your honesty is refreshing, human. Most species lie more elegantly when caught concealing capabilities. I think the Council has indeed underestimated your people. Perhaps that was your intention all along. Jake shrugged. Maybe we're just good students. We've been watching how galactic politics work, learning the rules, understanding the players. Earth wants to contribute to the Council, but we also want to survive. Those goals aren't mutually exclusive. The conversation continued for several more minutes as the Emperor asked pointed questions about human augmentation technology and Earth's willingness to share information. Jake answered carefully, revealing enough to establish trust while maintaining operational security. It was a delicate balance, and watching him navigate it made Zarakith realize that humanity's diplomats weren't the simple negotiators they appeared to be. After the Emperor disconnected, the princess turned to Jake with genuine curiosity. How many humans have your level of augmentation? Enough, Jake replied simply. Earth's been preparing for various contingencies. We're the new kids in a galaxy full of established powers. Some of those powers might not have our best interests at heart. So we developed capabilities that would let us defend ourselves if diplomacy failed. The augmentation program is one of several initiatives designed to level the playing field. And the energy channeling specifically? How does that work? Jake hesitated, clearly weighing how much to reveal. Finally, he said, human biology has unique properties related to bioelectric systems. We generate electricity naturally through our nervous systems and muscles. Earth scientists figured out how to amplify that, creating pathways that let us interface with external power sources. With the right training and implants, we can draw energy from reactors, power grids, even stellar radiation under the right conditions. It's not magic, just biology meeting engineering. Zarakith absorbed this information, her mind racing through tactical implications. If humans could channel energy from power sources, they could potentially turn any battlefield into their advantage. Ships, stations, even planetary power grids could become weapons in human hands. The princess suddenly understood why Earth had kept this secret. Such capability could make humanity either valuable allies or dangerous enemies, depending on who was in charge. Your people are more formidable than the Council realizes, she said carefully. That could cause problems. There are factions in the galaxy that don't respond well to surprises, especially military ones. What happens when word spreads about what you can do? Jake's expression hardened slightly. Then Earth will deal with it. We've faced extinction-level threats before, Your Highness. Survived ice ages, plagues, world wars. We're good at adapting to hostile environments and finding ways to win. If the galaxy decides humanity is too dangerous, well, they'll discover that making us enemies was their first and last mistake. The threat wasn't loud or dramatic, but it carried absolute conviction. Zarakith found herself believing him completely. Humanity might be newcomers to galactic civilization, but they were survivors who'd clawed their way to the stars through determination and innovation. Underestimating them would be a critical error. The medical team finished treating the wounded guards and moved to check Jake for injuries. He waved them off, insisting he was fine despite having channeled enough energy to power a city. His augmentations were designed to handle extreme loads, though he definitely pushed his limits during the fight. The shaking in his hands had mostly subsided, replaced by the familiar fatigue that came after heavy energy use. Captain Velron emerged from the bridge, his blue-scaled face showing relief at the outcome. He approached Jake with something resembling reverence, clasping the human's shoulder with genuine gratitude. "You saved my ship and crew, Lieutenant Morrison. The Keltorian fleet owes you a debt. I will make sure my report reflects your actions accurately." "Just doing my job, sir," Jake replied. "Though I wouldn't object to getting my armor checked out, I pushed it pretty hard today." The captain laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "I suspect your armor is fine, human. It's the rest of us who need to reconsider our assumptions." He glanced at Princess Zarakith, then back to Jake. "I served in the border wars 20 years ago, fought against enemies who thought we were weak because we valued art and culture. They learned quickly that strength takes many forms. I suspect the galaxy is about to learn the same lesson about humanity." As the crew began repairs and assessed damage, Zarakith pulled Jake aside to a quieter section of the corridor. Her expression had shifted from earlier arrogance to something more complex, respect mixed with calculation, and perhaps the beginnings of genuine friendship. The princess had spent her life surrounded by people who either feared her rank or wanted something from her. Jake treated her with professional courtesy, but no special deference. It was refreshing. "I want to apologize again," she said, "not just for the mocking comments, though those were uncalled for, but for my entire attitude toward your people. The integration program was designed to slowly civilize humanity, to bring you up to galactic standards. That was patronizing and wrong. You don't need civilizing. You need partnership." Jake studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation or political maneuvering. He found only sincerity. "Apology accepted, Your Highness. And for what it's worth, Earth appreciates what you've done. The integration program gave us access to galactic technology and knowledge we wouldn't have gotten otherwise. Maybe the motivation was flawed, but the results still helped humanity. Still, I could have approached it differently, with more respect and less assumption." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "I'd like to propose something, not as a princess or council representative, but as someone who just watched you demolish a Crithian boarding party single-handedly. I want to learn from you, train with you, understand how humans think tactically. In exchange, I'll teach you Keltorian combat techniques and strategy. A genuine cultural exchange, not the one-sided education we've been attempting. Training with a princess would give him insight into Keltorian military doctrine and political thinking. It would also establish a personal connection that could benefit Earth's diplomatic efforts. On the other hand, it meant revealing more about human capabilities and potentially creating complications if Zarakith's motives were less pure than they seemed. He decided to take the risk. "I accept, Your Highness, but on one condition. We train as equals. No rank, no titles, just two soldiers learning from each other. Do you?" Zarakith smiled, the expression transforming her face from regal authority to something warmer and more genuine. "Deal, Jake Morrison. I think this will be the beginning of a very interesting partnership." She extended her hand again, and this time when Jake shook it, The gesture felt less formal and more like the start of actual friendship. The Kaltorian warship limped toward the nearest repair station, its hull scarred but its crew intact. In the aftermath of the battle, word spread quickly about what had happened. The other alien crew members looked at Jake differently now, with respect instead of curiosity or contempt. Some of them approached him with questions about human culture and capabilities, conversations that would have been dismissed as irrelevant hours earlier. Jake found himself explaining humanity's history to a group of fascinated Kaltorian engineers. He told them about Earth's wars, the times humans had faced impossible odds and survived through innovation and determination. He described how humanity had reached for the stars despite having less advanced technology than most species, driven by curiosity and the refusal to accept limitations. The engineers listened intently, beginning to understand that humanity's strength came not from superior technology, but from an almost reckless willingness to adapt and overcome. As the ship entered the repair station's docking bay, Jake returned to his assigned quarters. The small room was sparse, containing only basic necessities. He removed his armor piece by piece, examining each component for damage. The scarred plates showed new marks from the battle, burns and scratches that told the story of what he'd channeled through them. But the armor remained intact, its simple construction proving more durable than the Kaltorians' elegant force fields. Jake activated his personal communicator, entering a complex encryption sequence that connected him directly to Earth Command. When the line secured, a familiar face appeared on the screen. Admiral Chen, commander of Earth's Special Operations Division, studied Jake with sharp eyes. "I heard about the Crithian incident," Chen said without preamble. "You made quite an impression on the Kaltorians. How bad was the reveal?" "Significant but controlled," Jake replied. "I demonstrated energy channeling and enhanced combat capabilities, but didn't explain the full extent of the augmentation program. The Kaltorian princess is smart, though. She's already making connections and asking the right questions. Earth's cover as primitive newcomers is effectively blown, at least with this ship's crew." Chen nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We expected this eventually. One human in the right situation was bound to reveal our capabilities. The question is how we manage the fallout." "What's your assessment of Princess Zarakith? Is she going to be a problem?" Jake thought about the princess, her shift from arrogance to respect, the genuine apology and offer of partnership. "I think she's actually an opportunity, Admiral. She's got influence with the Kaltorian Emperor and real authority within the Council. If we can turn her into an advocate for humanity, she might help smooth our integration into galactic politics. But she's also calculating and strategic. We'll need to be careful about what information we share and how we frame our capabilities. I'm authorizing you to continue the relationship but maintain operational security. You can discuss general concepts of human augmentation and training methods, but keep specific technical details classified. We want the galaxy to respect humanity's capabilities without understanding exactly how we achieve them. Can you manage that balance? I've already established those parameters with the princess. She's smart enough to understand why we're being cautious, and I think she respects the strategic thinking behind it." Chen leaned back in his chair, a rare smile crossing his weathered face. "Good work, Lieutenant. You turned a potential disaster into a diplomatic opportunity. That's exactly the kind of adaptability we need from our people in the integration program. Keep me updated on developments, and remember that you're representing all of humanity out there. No pressure." Jake laughed despite himself. "None at all, sir." Morrison out. The connection closed, leaving Jake alone with his thoughts. He finished inspecting his armor, satisfied that it had held up well under extreme stress. The simple metal plates that Zarakith had mocked now represented something more in his mind. They were proof that humanity didn't need to match the galaxy's aesthetic standards to be effective. They could be practical, functional, and devastating in ways that elegant technology couldn't replicate. A knock on his door interrupted his reflection. Jake opened it to find Zarakith standing in the corridor, now wearing simple training clothes instead of her royal armor. She held two practice weapons, energy staffs set to low power for sparring. The princess smiled slightly at his surprised expression. "I thought we could start that training exchange immediately. Unless you're too tired from saving my ship?" Jake grinned, grabbing a towel and following her out into the corridor. "Not too tired, Your Highness. Let's see what Kaltorian combat training looks like." They made their way to the ship's training room, a large space equipped with various exercise equipment and sparring mats. A few off-duty crew members were using the facilities, but they quickly cleared out when they saw the princess enter. Soon Jake and Zarakith had the room to themselves, facing each other across the padded floor. "Standard rules," Zarakith said, tossing him one of the staffs. "First to score 3 clean hits wins the match. No augmentation, no energy channeling, just technique and skill. I want to see how humans fight when they're not pulling power from reactors." Jake activated the staff, feeling its weight and balance, similar to weapons he'd trained with in basic, though the energy component added complexity. "Fair enough. But I warn you, human martial arts might surprise you. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years. Developed a lot of techniques during that time." They began slowly, testing each other's defenses with probing strikes. Zarakith moved with fluid grace, her style emphasizing defense and counterattacks. Jake fought with more aggressive energy, pressing forward and looking for openings. Their staffs clashed with sharp cracks, energy fields sparking where they met. Both fighters adjusted quickly to their opponent's rhythm, the match evolving from tentative exploration to genuine competition. Zarakith scored the first hit, a quick jab that slipped past Jake's guard to tap his ribs. She stepped back with a satisfied smile. 1-0. Your guard drops when you commit to attacks. Classic mistake. Jake nodded acknowledgement and reset his stance. The second exchange lasted longer, both fighters moving with increased intensity. This time Jake scored, using a feint that drew Zarakith's staff out of position before striking her shoulder. 1-1. Your counterattacks are predictable. You always go high after defending low. The princess's eyes narrowed, competitive instinct taking over. They crashed together again, staffs blurring in complex patterns. The match became a genuine test of skill, both fighters pushing their limits. Jake discovered that Zarakith was faster than he'd expected, her alien physiology giving her reflexes he had to work hard to match without augmentation. But his human endurance and adaptability kept him competitive, finding new approaches when his initial techniques failed. They traded hits until the score stood at 2-2, both fighters breathing hard from the exertion. The final exchange would determine the winner. Jake and Zarakith circled each other, studying movement patterns and looking for any advantage. Then they attacked simultaneously, staffs meeting in a storm of strikes and blocks. The match ended when Jake managed a sweep that knocked Zarakith off balance, allowing him to score the winning hit to her midsection before she could recover. The princess sat on the mat, catching her breath and laughing. "You fight dirty, human." That sweep came from nowhere. Jake extended his hand to help her up. "My instructor always said that honor is great, but winning keeps you alive. We train to be practical, not pretty." "I'm beginning to see that," Zarakith said, accepting his hand. "Your entire species seems built around that philosophy. Practical solutions, functional design, Whatever works. It's so different from how most of the galaxy approaches problems. We tend to chase elegance and sophistication, sometimes at the expense of effectiveness. They move to the training room's bench, sitting down to rest. Around them, the ship hummed with normal operations, repairs continuing across multiple decks. Jake pulled out a water container and offered it to Zarakith, who accepted gratefully. For a few minutes they sat in comfortable silence, the earlier tension between them completely gone. "Can I ask you something personal?" Zarakith said finally. "Sure." "Why did you join the integration program? You're clearly more than just a regular soldier. You could have stayed on Earth, had an important position in your military. Instead, you volunteered to be an observer on an alien ship where most of the crew treated you like a curiosity. Why?" Jake considered how much to reveal, then decided honesty would serve him better than evasion. Because someone needed to be humanity's face out here, and it couldn't be a diplomat or politician. Those people are great at negotiations and treaties, but they don't understand what it's like on the ground level. I wanted to show the galaxy what humans are really like, not the sanitized version our government presents. And I wanted to learn from other species, understand how they think and fight. Knowledge is power, Your Highness. The more I learn about the galaxy, the better I can help protect Earth. The princess nodded slowly. That's remarkably honest. Most people would have given me a political answer about cultural exchange and building bridges. You just straight up admitted you're here for reconnaissance and education. I appreciate that. We're building a partnership, right? Might as well start with honesty. Besides, you're doing the same thing. Learning about humanity, assessing our capabilities, figuring out if we're potential allies or threats. That's smart strategy from your perspective. Zarakith smiled. True. Though after today, I'm leaning heavily toward the ally category. A species that can produce soldiers like you is worth having as friends rather than enemies. They continued talking as the ship's artificial day cycle shifted toward evening. Jake shared stories about Earth's history, describing humanity's rise from primitive tribes to spacefaring civilization. He explained how humans had survived ice ages, plagues, and countless wars through adaptation and stubborn refusal to give up. Zarakith listened intently, beginning to understand that humanity's strength came from thousands of years of trial by fire. In return, the princess told Jake about Keltorian culture, their emphasis on art and honor. She described the various alien species in the Galactic Council, their strengths and weaknesses, their political alignments and historical conflicts. It was valuable intelligence delivered in the context of friendly conversation, both of them teaching and learning simultaneously. As their discussion wound down, Zarakith stood and stretched. I should return to my quarters. Tomorrow we're scheduled to reach the repair station, and I'll need to make formal reports about the Krithian attack. Those reports will mention your actions prominently. I expect you'll receive official recognition from the Council. Jake stood as well. I'd rather avoid the spotlight if possible. Earth's not ready for that kind of attention yet. Too late for that, I'm afraid. What you did today will spread through the fleet within days. By next week, every species in the Council will have heard about the human who defeated a Krithian boarding party alone. You've become a symbol, Jake Morrison, whether you wanted to or not. The question is, what humanity does with that symbol. She was right, and Jake knew it. His cover as just another integration program observer was completely blown. Now he'd become proof of human capability, a demonstration that Earth's species could stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most dangerous forces. The implications would ripple through diplomatic channels for months, possibly years. Earth Command would need to adjust their strategy accordingly. Then I guess we'd better make sure the symbol sends the right message, Jake said. Humanity is capable and strong, but also interested in cooperation and mutual benefit. We're not trying to dominate or threaten anyone, just looking for our place in the larger galactic community. Saraki studied his face carefully. Do you really believe that? About humanity not wanting to dominate? Because from where I'm standing, you look like a species that could conquer half the galaxy if you put your minds to it. Your augmentation technology alone would give you massive military advantages. Jake met her gaze steadily. We could, but we won't. Earth learned a long time ago that conquest is expensive and ultimately self-defeating. We spent centuries fighting each other before we figured out that cooperation produces better results than domination. We're applying those lessons on a galactic scale now. Yes, we've got capabilities that could make us dangerous, but we're choosing partnership over conquest because that's the smarter long-term strategy. The princess considered this, weighing his words against her observations of human behavior. Finally, she nodded. I believe you. Or at least, I believe you believe it. Time will tell if the rest of humanity shares your philosophy. For now, though, I'm willing to give your species the benefit of the doubt. You've earned that much. They parted ways outside the training room, each returning to their quarters. Jake knew sleep would be difficult after everything that had happened. His mind kept replaying the battle, analyzing what he'd done right and what could have gone better. The energy channeling had worked perfectly, but he'd pushed dangerously close to his augmentation limits. Another few minutes of sustained combat might have caused permanent damage to his nervous system. He pulled up his personal terminal and began writing his report for Earth Command, documenting every detail of the encounter. The intelligence would help refine human augmentation protocols and provide tactical data about Krithian combat capabilities. As he wrote, Jake found himself thinking about the future. Today had changed everything. Humanity's careful facade of primitive newcomers had cracked, revealing glimpses of what Earth was truly capable of achieving. The galaxy would react to that revelation in unpredictable ways. Some species would see opportunity for alliance. Others would see threat requiring response. A few might view humanity as prey that needed to be eliminated before it became too strong. Earth's diplomats would have their work cut out for them, navigating newly complicated political waters while managing expectations about human capabilities. But Jake felt cautiously optimistic. He'd proven that humans could stand alongside the galaxy's warriors and hold their own. He'd earned genuine respect from Princess Zarakith and the Keltorian crew. Most importantly, he demonstrated that humanity's strength came not just from technology but from mindset, the willingness to adapt and overcome regardless of circumstances. That was the real message he wanted the galaxy to understand. As artificial night fell across the ship, Jake finally allowed himself to rest. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to represent humanity and build bridges with alien species. The integration program had evolved beyond its original purpose, becoming something more valuable and complex. Jake was proud to be part of that evolution, honored to carry Earth's reputation into the stars. His last thought before sleep was about the armor hanging in his quarters, scarred and simple but proven effective in the galaxy's most demanding crucible. Princess Zarakith had mocked it hours ago. Now she understood what it truly represented. Not primitive weakness, but human pragmatism refined through millennia of survival. The armor was a perfect metaphor for humanity itself, looking basic on the surface but containing depths of capability that surprised anyone who underestimated it. Jake Morrison, lieutenant in Earth's Colonial Marines and humanity's unlikely ambassador, closed his eyes and let exhaustion claim him. The galaxy had learned something important today. Humanity was done being underestimated. The real question was what came next, and Jake intended to be right there at the center of it, fighting for Earth's place among the stars,